All right, what up? It's Leonidas coming in from the top of Florianopolis, and I have been living here now for almost 3 months. My 3 months duration will conclude in about 1 week. So I'm going to tell you why I came here in the first place. Then I'm going to tell you all of my recommendations as far as health, wealth, relationships, and happiness, as well as places that you need to visit, my top 5 recommendations here, and any other tips that you might necessarily need while you are here in Florianopolis. So keeping in mind, this guide is for both travelers that might be here for just maybe a few days, as well as digital nomads. So myself being a digital nomad who's been living here now for almost 3 months. So the too long didn't read of this, the TLDR of this video, is that Florianopolis has thus far been my most favorite place to be here in Brazil. It has everything that you would need for a stable lifestyle, including safety, adventures, nature, beaches, weather, a strong fitness culture or a strong beach body culture, surfing, hiking, and everything else in between. So if you don't manage to finish this entire video, Florianopolis has been my most favorite place in all of Brazil thus far, after being to many other locations here in Brazil. So a quick backstory about why I decided to come live here in Florianopolis. About 5 years ago, I was living in the city of Curitiba, 8 hours from Florianopolis, and I decided to come here on a quick visit just to check out the island. From my understanding, the island was mostly dedicated to beaches and a very resort-like lifestyle. So fast forward 5 years later, and while living in the city of Medellin, Colombia, I decided that I would prefer to go to a much quieter place that didn't have the big city feel of it, and instead move here to the island of Florianopolis into a little beach village called Campeche. And here in Campeche, I would dedicate myself to full-on Muay Thai training as much as possible and simply focus on that. So that was my main mission, to get away from the big city life and to come to Florianopolis, to a small town called Campeche, to focus on Muay Thai training. Now, the health, the wealth, the relationships, and the happiness. So as far as health is concerned, there is a very strong fitness and yoga culture here on the island of Florianopolis. This is probably because of the beach body culture. People want to look good when they end up going to the beach. So there's a lot of CrossFit gyms, there's a lot of regular gyms, there's a lot of biking going around, there's a lot of jogging going around. People want to look good for the beach. So therefore they exercise as much as possible, and you'll see that pretty much anytime you end up going to the beach, there's going to be an overabundance of people who look good. In the first 2 weeks of coming here to Florianopolis, I ended up visiting the beach of Novo Campeche, so New Campeche, and there I witnessed tons of beach bodies. So men and women who were very fit, and you could see that they had a strong emphasis on sculpting themselves to look good and tanned for the beach. Now, on top of that, there's a very strong surfing culture here. So with over 40 beaches on this island, you'll see at least 10 beaches that are dedicated to surfers. So surfers that wake up really early, they'll walk with their surfboards to the beach, and then they'll just wait it out for their particular waves. You'll see surfing pretty much everywhere. I didn't engage in any surfing because it's not my thing, but if you are a surfer, Florianopolis is probably one of the top 2 best places here for surfing in Brazil. Now, as far as Muay Thai training, I also wanted to come here to get myself into a level of fitness. So while living in Sao Paulo and living in Medellin, Colombia, I wasn't engaged in any heavy fitness training. I decided to come here to Florianopolis to start training in Muay Thai once again, to resume my training. And I would focus on going at least 3 to 4 times per week and training at least 2 to 3 hours per day. So 3 hours would be the maximum that I would train. Sometimes it would even be 3.5 hours, but essentially trying to focus on that Muay Thai training to get back into the technique of it as well as to the fitness of it. So trying to burn those calories off from at least 6 months of not doing any intensive physical activity. And as well, if you're a vegan, this is a fantastic place to be vegan as well. While there's not an overabundance of vegan restaurants, there is a very strong vegan culture. So if you do end up coming here and you want to try some vegan food, some of the best vegan food, I would check out Capora restaurant in Campeche, and I've been going there at least 2 or 3 times per week for their dish of the day. Highly recommended. So the wealth category, the cost of living here is slightly higher than other parts of Brazil. This is probably due to the high level of safety. And because of this higher level of safety, there is much more tourism, and as well, there's a much higher standard of living. So Florianopolis, one of the best places to live in Brazil because of safety, and therefore it's slightly more expensive to live here. Now, if you're decided to come here and you decide to use Ubers all over the place, just like what I did, Uber here is super, super cheap, as well as another app that I would recommend. It's called 99. But I decided to adventure quite extensively all over this island, try to see as much as possible. And I ended up spending around $200 per month on Ubers, or even 99. So in total, $200 per month on taxis, because I used taxis extensively to get to know the island. Now, the most expensive taxi I ended up paying was only $30. This was for a 1-hour trip of about 35 kilometers during carnival season at nighttime as well. So that's as expensive as an Uber could potentially get here, about $30. But nonetheless, Ubers here, very, very inexpensive. Any taxi service that you use would technically be very, very inexpensive. And generally speaking, I ended up paying about $860 US per month for my rent. This included a massive apartment that I got very close to the beach and essentially just down the street, walking distance and as well as biking distance from where I was training in Muay Thai. So apartments here can be expensive, but they can also be very inexpensive. I recommend you always negotiate. However you're renting, always try to knock down the price as much as possible and indicate that you're either staying for a longer duration of time or just negotiate using your skill set nonetheless. My Muay Thai training here just came out to about $30 per month. Now I'm taking more private lessons because I want to do a little bit more technical stuff. And in general, my overall expenses outside of training and rent were about $1,000 per month on top of that. That's groceries, that's taxis, that's just having fun. Maybe I was going to restaurants, maybe buying new pieces of clothes. If you decide to come here, expect to spend around anywhere from $700 to $1,000 in rent, but obviously you can negotiate that price down. And then on top of that, $1,000 per month in other expenses such as traveling, groceries, etc. Now, for relationships, you can join various Facebook groups as well as try to find various WhatsApp groups for nomads, for people living here, for adventurers, and as well as Telegram groups. And with these groups, you'll end up going to different meetups, cafes, parties, clubs, etc. So make sure you get yourself into a group of friends, acquaintances, or whomever, and end up doing stuff. So on adventures, clubs, so you end up having fun and enjoying yourself. I also was using various dating apps such as Tinder or Bumble, and through these dating apps, we'd go on different adventures as well. So it's always fantastic to have someone accompany you on your various adventures. One of my favorite places to visit here for the nighttime was a place called Garden Family in Campeche. This is only because it's relatively close to where I am. It had various bars inside the venue with live music as well. We can also visit Lagoinha de Costão for various bars there as well. It's more of the party area for tourism as well as digital nomads, as well as couch surfers, as well as backpackers. So Lagoinha de Costão has a lot of the party stuff that you might want to check out. So during the first 2 weeks that I was here in Florianopolis, I was invited into a nightclub up in Jurerê during carnival season. And there they were playing techno or electro, and you would see some of the most beautiful people in Brazil going to this particular nightclub. Now, it had really high cover, so I was invited there through a friend and got in for free. But nonetheless, very beautiful people, amazing music. And it's one of the things that I also checked out while I was here in Florianopolis. And there's also a small bar district in Centro. Now, I didn't go to Centro to party almost at all, nor to nightclubs, nor to really anything big there. But obviously in Centro, you'll find yourself some cool things to do. And for the happiness category, once again, this island is perfect for you if you enjoy hiking, adventures, trails, fitness, biking, surfing, and climbing things, going through jungles, going through forests, going through sand dunes, going to beaches. This island is perfect. And on top of that, you have safety. If you enjoy all of those, then you'll have tons of happiness here. Like I guarantee it. So my top 10 places to visit while you're here in Florianopolis. So the Mirante do Morro da Cruz, or the viewpoint of the Hill of the Cross. And it's pretty much right beside the centro of Florianopolis, the main city that's here. And you get to see the entire city. It's a phenomenal view. To get there, you simply hop into an Uber. It will take you straight to the top and you just walk to the viewpoint and you're there. An amazing view. If you're curious, you can also walk around some of the antennas and you'll be able to see the other side of the city of Florianopolis as well. Other than Centro, which I'm sure you're going to visit 100%. If you do come to the city of Florianopolis, I do recommend you check out the Mirante do Morro da Cruz, or the viewpoint of the three crosses. Now, if you have a full day to yourself and you're ready for a nice, fun hike, I really recommend you check out Lagoinha do Leste, and this involves taking a taxi a little bit further south into the island. And there you'll start off by doing a quick trek, maybe it's about an hour or so, and then once you finish the trek, you'll arrive at a beach. So the beach view is fantastic. And then when you're there, I recommend you start climbing up into the hill or the mountain that's right beside it. That's going to be another 40 minutes to an hour climb up. And then from there, you're going to have an amazing, amazing view. There's going to be a rock you're going to 100% end up taking a cool photo on. It's one of the most popular viewpoints to take a picture here in Brazil, especially Florianopolis. And then you can do meditation up there, you can relax up there, and then when you're finally ready to go down, you'll climb back down. And then you can visit the Lagoinha, or the lagoon that's in the area as well. And there you can wash yourself off from all the sweat, all the dirt. And then finally, you can end up camping in the area, which is what a lot of people ended up doing. Or you can take the trek back and finally end up getting yourself back to the main road, which is going to be another hour or so. Another hike that I really recommend is the Costão Praia da Lagoinha. So it's the coast of the beach of the Lagoinha, or the lagoon. And it's in the very northeast of the island. It's like at the very, very peak of the island. And in order to get there, you have to take a taxi to Praia Brava, or the Brava Beach. And then there's like this secret entrance, right? That has stairs, it has a sign on there. And then once you pass this entrance, you go up. It's a very simple climb. You'll see this amazing, amazing viewpoint of both sides of the island, the north side of the island, as well as the east side of the island. And then you continue along the path. And then finally, you'll end up going down and trekking down the coast of the very northern tip of the island. In that particular day, you'll end up seeing the Brava Beach, as well as the Lagoinha Beach, as well as the very northeastern coast of Brazil. And it's an amazing trek. Highly recommend it. You would probably need about a day. And another amazing, amazing hike you need to do here is called the Trilha da Boa Vista. Now, the Trilha da Boa Vista has two hiking paths to it, but the path that I recommend starts from Mole Beach. So Mole Beach is this beach dedicated mostly to surfers, but you'll also see tourists sunbathing there as well. And it has this amazing, amazing rock formations that you can climb onto, take amazing pics, amazing views. But then as you continue from Mole Beach, you start to enter Galheta Beach. And in Galheta Beach, it's a nudist beach where you'll see, as the name implies, nude people walking around, no clothes. There's going to be lots of couples there, so men, women, and as well as men walking around, completely no clothes, just showing their parts, getting some sunshine. And then as you continue along Galheta Beach all the way to the very end of it, you'll start seeing another amazing rock formation. You can climb up on top, get some amazing pics, amazing views. But if you double back just a little bit, you can start climbing up towards the Trilha da Boa Vista. Now, if you're not sure how to enter this hike, I recommend you download the apps called All Trails, and it'll show you on your phone the exact path to get up there. And once you start climbing up, you'll have this amazing exit from the beach into sand dunes, into shrubs, and essentially into forests. So it's one of the paths that I really recommend. And then as you start getting to the top, you have this amazing view of the beach. And then as you start getting to the peak of it and you hit the very top of it, the Mirante or the viewpoint, you get to see both the beaches that are on the left side as well as the Lagoa da Conceição town. So fantastic view up there, but nonetheless a fantastic trek. And as you continue down the path, you'll cross along the eastern coast of Florianopolis and you'll continue down towards the Barra da Lagoa, so the town of Barra da Lagoa. Now, if you end up visiting Barra da Lagoa, which I'm sure you will, you can continue along the beach towards the north, and then you'll start entering the beach called Moçambique Beach or Mozambique Beach. And it's this very long stretch of beach that there's no apartments there, there's no housing there. It's just a long stretch of beach flanked by a forest. And then eventually, if you start entering the forest itself, there's a path there called the Parque Rio Vermelho, or the Red River Park. And there is this pre-colonized raw nature, right? You're going to go into this ancient forest and it's an amazing view to trek through because on the one hand, it's completely unadulterated. On the other hand, there's no signal there for your cell phone. So keep that in mind. So go there during the daytime and it's an amazing view. You're going through forest that there's no developments there. It's fresh, it's real. And I highly recommend you go there if you absolutely love nature and these very scenic forest-like hikes. All right, so Centro, or the center of Florianopolis, is your typical high-rise Brazilian city with towering white apartments and office complexes on all sides. The market district is where all the action is. Here you can find everything that you might not be able to find in smaller towns around Florianopolis. It's also the historic core of Florianopolis, with one of the first churches established on the island. When I first came here in 2017, it felt a bit sketchy, but this time around, Centro felt a lot safer. Centro itself is surrounded by a seashore, which is dedicated to biking, runners, fitness, as well as a dense highway that passes around the city from north to south and east to west. From the western side of Centro, you can continue up towards the Hercílio Luz Bridge and cross from the island of Florianopolis onto what locals call continental Brazil. On the other side is more city for several kilometers. Living in Centro is much more lively compared with living in smaller beach villages located around Florianopolis, but the distance between the two is small enough to enjoy both anytime you want. Just a quick walk from the town of Lagoa is a narrow path up the steep hills of Floripa that leads you towards two amazing spots. First is the tiny beach of Gravatá, which almost feels like a tiny fishing cove, and it barely has any tourists. Further up along the path, you will have some beautiful vistas to check out. On the other hand, there's a hidden path towards the Gravatá viewpoint. This path might be a bit difficult to find, so I recommend a guide or asking around, but the view is absolutely stunning. Sit up here, meditate on your thoughts a little bit, take in the view, and enjoy the sunset. Towards the northwestern coast of Florianopolis is the upper-class town of Jurerê. This is where many Latin Americans with money come for their parties, sunshine, and expensive investment properties. This was the first time in Brazil I saw expensive houses without large fortress-like walls to keep out intruders. Relatively speaking, Brazil isn't a safe place, hence this location felt like a typical upper-class suburb of Canada. Also, make sure to climb up the Torre do Il Campanário for an amazing view. While you are on the northwestern coast, head a bit further west towards Pontal or the Point Peninsula. This almost felt like a secret beach. As you continue along the Point Peninsula, you enter some really unadulterated and secluded secret beach locations with almost no one there. Just you, the birds, and golden sands. Along the eastern coast of Florianopolis is a flurry of amazing places to visit. You can either taxi or bike along the main roads, passing along the large ancient rocks that protect the eastern coast against the powerful tides of the Atlantic Ocean. I tried to climb one of these rocks, but upon getting closer, the rocks were a lot bigger than I had anticipated. Along the way, you can drop into the Lagoa do Peri for a quick dip. The waters in Lagoa do Peri are extremely calm, cool, and the lake has plenty of tiny fishes that nibble at you. You can also try to find a more secret path into the lake where you can have a large section of the lake to yourself. As you head further down the coast, you will reach Armação town, which leads towards the Campanhas tip or peninsula. The rock formations here are beautiful to say the least. For more beach adventures, you can cross the stream next to Armação town and enter into Matadeiros Beach. I came here with friends on a beautiful sunny day, so everything was perfect. Even further down the island are the former swamplands of Pantano do Sul. The town itself is dedicated primarily for fishing. One day I was really adventurous, so I decided to bike 1 hour to the south. My mission was to find some of the caves at the southern tip of the island. Thus, I spent a few hours scaling the rocky shores and even came across a capybara. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to reach the caves because the tides were too strong and too high. Thus, I doubled back on my bike towards the other side of the coastal beaches. And then it was another 1 hour bike ride back to Campeche. On the western coast of Florianopolis, the waters are much more tranquil since they face away from the Atlantic Ocean. I did what I could to try and see all of the beaches and towns that dotted the western coast. Sometimes climbing and jumping across whatever I could, while other times simply hopping into a taxi to hit up the next beach location. The plan was to get to Naufragados Beach at the very southwestern tip of Florianopolis. Someone told me that there were monkeys in the forest, so giving bananas to these monkeys was my mission. The beach itself was pristine like most other beaches that didn't have a major road connecting them. And at the very southeastern tip of the island were ancient defensive cannons from a more dangerous imperial era long ago. Keep in mind, if you decide to head down all the way to Naufragados, the taxis are too far away to call using apps, and the public buses only arrive once an hour. Just 4 hours away by bus is the city of Blumenau. The city itself heavily emphasizes its 19th century Germanic roots. Every year, hundreds of thousands of tourists come here to celebrate German culture while still being in the confines of Brazil. German-inspired beer, Villa Germanica Park, and the Oktoberfest-inspired souvenirs was the most Germanic things you can find in Blumenau. Just 2 hours by bus gets you to the ultra-modern coastal city of Balneário Camboriú. Here you find large, towering skyscrapers with the main roads flanked on all sides by shopping, restaurants, and tourists.
So this is deja vu for me, but I just want to say that Balneário Camboriú in Brazil reminds me a lot of Rio de Janeiro. But even though a lot of the cities in Brazil look the same, very similar, where they're built along a beach, simply put, the beach here is incredibly long. So from start to finish, It's maybe about 150 meters, maybe a little bit more. And then interspersed, you have all these buildings that have these alleyways or streets that go on either side. So this city reminds me quite a lot, like I said, of Rio de Janeiro. One of the differences, perhaps you could say, about this place is that it's a little bit safer and a little bit cleaner, and maybe there's a little bit less homeless people here as well. So I gotta say that this place is interesting, to say the least. And if you go to Rio and you come here, you'll see the similarities.
The most fun part of this city was the cable car that takes you into the viewpoint that overlooks the entire city. From up here, you can clearly see how rapidly the city developed, with everything in the background still representing the 2 to 3 story houses from just a few decades ago. I only stayed here for one day, but everyone mentioned that Balneário Camboriú is famous for their nightlife and parties. Now some final tips for all levels of adventures, whether you're coming here just for a couple days, whether you're coming here for a quick staycation, or whether you're a digital nomad who's planning to come and live here. Number 1, the season to be here is between September and mid-April. That's when it's sunny, that's when it's hot, that's when it's the best time to do all types of adventures, that's when it's not raining. So now in the May season that I'm currently in, it's starting to rain quite a bit. The weather's a lot cooler. At nighttime, it can get quite cold, especially if you're not prepared for the weather. Safety here is a non-issue, okay? Unlike Rio de Janeiro, unlike Sao Paulo, unlike Recife, unlike other cities in Brazil, safety here is a non-issue. Obviously, be vigilant nonetheless, especially if you're in the center of the city, in Centro. But safety here, you can bike, you can walk around at nighttime, very, very safe here. If you do decide to come here for a longer duration, I recommend you ask your host for a bicycle, or try renting a bicycle, or even buy a bicycle, because some of the adventures or some of the distances here are relatively small and they don't require a taxi, but things here are spaced out. Imagine you're living in the suburbs of whatever city you're from, and things are not high rises, so you basically need a bicycle wherever you're going. And it's also fantastic for fitness as well, in case you decide to do yourself a biking adventure. So get yourself a bike. Some things that I do recommend while you are here: bring yourself hiking boots, not sneakers, not regular light boots that can get destroyed. I recommend proper hiking boots. As well, while you're here, you can buy yourself some sunscreen, buy yourself some aloe vera after the sunscreen, because your skin will burn. My friend decided to not wear sunscreen for a whole day and his skin was completely destroyed by the sun. And as well, get yourself an umbrella just in case it does rain. And final tip, Portuguese is a must-have while you're here. The majority of people here do not speak English, or they speak at a very basic level. So unless you simply decide to stick with foreigners that speak English, I do highly recommend you learn some Portuguese, because it'll help you get by much easier, whether it's with taxis, whether it's with destinations, whether it's with directions, whether it's with buying something. I do highly recommend get yourself brushed up on your Portuguese. So once again, Florianopolis, my most favorite place of all of Brazil thus far. After living in various cities, after visiting other destinations, it has everything you would need. Once again, safety, hiking, surfing, fitness, beaches, adventures, sand dunes, nature. If you just want to stick inside the city, you can do that as well. If you want to live in a village, you can do that as well. Florianopolis, best place in all of Brazil. I would say yes. And that's that. So if you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you think this video is amazing, if you think it's not amazing, if I missed anything, make sure to leave that in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe. And Leonidas here, Florianopolis, Brazil. See you in the next video. Salute.